Does it ever feel like big business and the government are actively trying to put small businesses out of business? They'll tell you that they're not, but it sure feels that way. I'm Nick Leese, founder of Next Gen Benefit Solutions and the host of the Next Gen podcast. I'm excited to have you with me today as we're going to dive into a pretty complex topic, and that's whether big business and government is trying to actively put small businesses out and to get them out of the marketplace. When I'm out talking to different business owners and clients and prospects, I hear that pretty frequently, that it feels like all the forces are against them. And quite frankly, I think they are. Now, while in this podcast, we're not going to dive into all the different economic factors and legal factors and regulation and compliance of the things that small businesses are facing, we're going to instead invest our time into one specific area, and that's how remaining competitive from a benefit standpoint is becoming harder and harder for small to mid-sized businesses. And quite frankly, I think a lot of it is that, big businesses rewarded, small businesses not. And really what I want to do is I want to offer hope to you. I want to offer hope to you as a small business leader or a small business owner in ways that you can kind of fight back against the bigs, fight back against what the government's done to your business, be able to deliver a benefits package that your employees love and that is actually working for your business, not against it. So let's start this podcast with kind of 5 things that I think, or either I think or that I've heard as to how small businesses feel when it comes to health insurance and why they struggle to remain competitive. Number one is high premium cost. And we all know this one. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a certain amount of things you can't do to help bring those costs down, but we're going to dive into that a little deeper. Complex regulations. I've shouted from the rooftops. The Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021 is arguably one of the best pieces of legislation for small businesses, mid-sized businesses to demand what they need to make good decisions, demand their data, demand better. There's a lot of power that was given with the Consolidated Appropriations Act, but the flip side of that is it's harder and harder to comply. There's more and more burden from a compliance standpoint that small to mid-sized businesses have to deal with that, large and enterprise businesses don't struggle with so much because they've got a whole team to do that stuff for them. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. Limited bargaining power. A lot of times when you've got 40,000 lives, you can kind of force different vendors and, carriers into submission because you have such a high volume that you can, negotiate maybe a little bit better. And while I would say that there's absolutely negotiating power in a 40 life group, it does become more challenging. The fourth thing is just an administrative burden. Benefits have only gotten more complex. There's more pieces going on. And one reason I find a lot of small businesses kind of hitting that easy button, just going with the really expensive, fully insured program, is they simply don't have the time to do anything else. And the fifth thing is lack of options in the space. And this is something that I rail on regularly against vendors, is that there's so many great vendors out there doing great things, but they all want 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 employees. Well, the reality is that's not the average American business. So we need more solutions for small to mid-sized businesses so that they have the ability to compete against the big players in business, compete against the government. And really the goal of this podcast is to, again, provide you some reassurance that you as a small business, you can compete against the bigs. You can fight back, and I'm going to give you some strategies how. So number one is the premium cost, okay? What goes into premium? I think that's the place to start. Obviously, we have to pay somebody to administer a plan for us, to kind of check all the boxes, make sure that claims are processed and reviewed and all that other stuff. So there's that fixed cost. One of the things that you can do is, all TPAs aren't created equal, all carriers aren't created equal. Find somebody that has found a way to streamline that and become efficient, allowing themselves to be lower priced in the market. Now, lower price doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that they have actively tried to run their business very efficiently and they can afford to do it at a lower cost. Now, again, the other side can be true is that sometimes people sell at a lower cost so that they can gain business. So the big thing is that you have to do your vetting. The other side is stop loss insurance. That one's kind of a hard one to go, but there's a number of different things that you can do to help control the cost of stop loss. Stop loss is the actual insurance piece of a program. Um, you know, Whether it's using some direct contracts or reference-based pricing to help keep costs down, whether it's having a program for specialty meds, there's a lot of things that you can do to help out with the stop loss side. And those things kind of translate into the last piece of what drives the cost of health insurance here in America, and that's claims. So on the front end, one of the things that we can do is, again, use different networks, have programs to reduce some of the high cost risks like specialty medications. But the other side is education, and that's a place that we have a lot of pride in, that we are passionate about, is, your employees weren't taught in school how to manage the healthcare system, how to navigate the healthcare system. And so by you as an employer taking a vested interest, helping your employees easily make good healthcare decisions, you're going to see your claims costs start coming down. And once we take that kind of proactive approach and really look at what are the cost drivers inside of our actual health insurance plan, it allows us to start putting in strategies in place to bring those costs down. And as those costs come down, your premiums get less expensive, making you more competitive with the big players. Now, the second thing is complex regulation. And I'd reiterate, the Consolidated Appropriations Act is something that you need to make yourself aware of. There's a lot of implications in there for business owners, whether you're a small business owner or you're an enterprise level business. The Consolidated Appropriations Act is talking to you, and if you don't know it, don't understand it, and don't follow it, there are some drawbacks to that. But the good news is that largely the Consolidated Appropriations Act was built for you. It was to give you leverage. One of the areas that we've struggled historically to control costs on the claim side is that we don't know what the claims are. The Consolidated Appropriations Act gives you, as a business owner, as a plan administrator, it gives you the power to demand your data, to demand all the inner workings of your health plan to be revealed to you so that you as a business owner can sit down and really evaluate that. But that doesn't make it any less burdensome. As a matter of fact, it kind of makes it more burdensome. So there's a couple of things that you can do. The number one thing I always recommend groups to do is simply to educate yourself and build a strategy. If you just do that, you're going to be way better off than most of your peers. You need to make sure that you understand what all the different regulations are, the different time periods in which they have to be filed or submitted, and then also how to comply, what forms have to be submitted. So an example is, coming up here July 31st, we have the PCORI fee. The PCORI fee is filled on a 720 tax form. 720 tax form is an excise tax form. It is the most confusing form that they could do. Where you actually calculate the fee is buried right in the middle of it. So by understanding that you're subject to PCORI, you understand what form you have to do it on, a 720, you know when it has to be filed, and you know what you're looking for, you only have to do that once. And then it's just putting a plan in place, having a compliance calendar so that you can systematically check off all these things. If you want to take a little bit of a step further, which is, when it comes to compliance, always being a little bit overboard is probably a good thing, is, leveraging some of the tools that we give our clients. Leveraging the fact that we have resources in different compliance attorneys and benefits firms or compliance firms that can actually give you hands-on. They're going to handle a lot of it for you. And that just takes it off. And a lot of times these are a pretty affordable service. So if you want that kind of peace of mind, that's another step to go. The only other thing, and it's not really a recommendation, but it's having a good advisor that can really help you navigate this, help you delineate between, what's something that I can do on my own versus what's something I probably need a more of an expert to help me with. So the third thing is a limited bargaining power. And this is one of those ones that is really frustrating. I think a small business should be able to plead their case just as much as a big business can. But unfortunately, volume is the name of the game. And a lot of times there's less, but that doesn't mean that there's not any negotiating power. So again, probably one of the best things that you can do here is have the right partners that you're working with that are going to fight for you. You got to make sure that they're going out there, they're talking to the carriers, they're talking to underwriters, they're telling your story. That's when it comes to the job that I do. I'll tell you a lot of times the biggest piece of it is just simply being an advocate, being a storyteller. It's packaging a group or a prospect for an underwriter and explaining to them why this is a good risk. It's somebody that can dig through the claims data. If a kid breaks their arm in January, come renewal time, don't count that against us. Almost every broken arm out there, kid breaks it, we put it in a cast for 8 weeks, kid's fine. We cut the cast off, maybe a little bit of physical therapy. But at the end of the day, it's what I call a one and done thing. So you need to make sure that you have either yourself and somebody on your team or a reliable partner that's looking at all these different pieces and they're going out and advocating on your behalf. So again, we don't have the side, the volume on our side to be able to, demand anything. But at the end of the day, there's a couple of different areas that we can really look at that we can use as leverage against the different carriers and help to control our costs. Now, the fourth thing is administrative burden. As I mentioned kind of in the intro, health plans have only gotten more complex. There's more benefits out there. There's, as we're trying to control cost, a lot of times we're bringing in more vendors. And it can be a real hassle trying to figure out how we make all of this work together. And the good news is that there's a lot of what I would call turnkey programs out there. They built them specifically for small to mid-sized businesses. And it's, again, turnkey. It's got all the different vendors already stacked in one place. These programs probably are slightly more expensive than if you went out and bundled them all together yourself. But, the ones that we use, experts have put them together. They're high quality plans. They've really vetted out the different vendor partners inside of them. They've made sure that the vendors work together pretty seamlessly. So that's one area, is that when we're trying to drive down costs, increase the benefits to your employees, a lot of times we can use different vendor stacks that are already put together and makes that administrative burden pretty easy. I would tell you a lot of them are probably just as easy as hitting the easy button as a fully insured program. It's already prepackaged for you. A lot of them are going to look, feel, and smell a lot like a fully insured program, but they're going to have those benefits of their intended nature, their foundation, which is self-insurance. So you're going to get the things like when you have a good year and your employees don't use the health benefits a whole lot, you're going to get a chance to get some of that money refunded to you. You're going to have more insight into what those cost drivers are, and really be able to actively make better decisions for your business and your employees. So again, administration, it's absolutely a concern, but as long as you're partnering with the right people, the right solutions, they can make a lot of that go away for you. There's also kind of last part of that is there's a lot of different vendors out there that have came into the space recently. I'll give a shout out to Milu Health, one of our partners that has really gone a long ways and just absolutely making things connect together in a better, more seamless way. So don't be frustrated by it, or shouldn't say that. Don't be intimidated by it. Frustrated is probably okay, but don't be intimidated by some of these different changes. Again, as long as you go into it with an open mind and the right partners, you can make a program that works extremely well for you and your business, even when it comes down to administering it. So the fifth and final thing is an area where, as I mentioned, I rail against a lot of these different vendors on a regular basis. And this is kind of a call out to the industry. There are so many people that don't find small to mid-sized businesses appealing. Now, that's not Next Gen Benefit Solutions. We love our small to mid-sized businesses. That's the only businesses we work with. Even though we're capable of working with enterprise level companies, we've got the skill set, the knowledge, the know-how. That's not where our passion lies. When we're moving needles, we want to move needles for small to mid-sized businesses because a large enterprise company saving $900,000 on their premium is not nearly as impactful as a small business owner saving $90,000 on his premium. And 90,000 is a real case scenario. That's a real number that we saved in the last year. One of our groups, they're only 15 lives, $90,000. But a lot of that comes down to is that we're always actively searching for partners and vendors that actually want to serve that small to mid-sized space. And there are some out there, but you have to go look for them. They're not just a dime a dozen like some, the stuff that serves that enterprise level business, big business. When it comes to small and mid-sized businesses, you have to work a little bit harder. Again, that's where having a good partner on your team can make all the difference because they're going out there and they're finding these for you. But at the end of the day, as a small to mid-sized business owner, I can't pull the wool over your eyes. There are less options than the big businesses have, but there are options. There are quality options available to you. We just got to go seek them out. We got to understand what your specific situation is, figure out where we need to go to find the solution to help you out. So, last note on that is, vendors out there, if you've previously kind of touted yourself as a hero in the large to enterprise business space, I'll tell you that the real heroes are the ones that are figuring out how to bring the economies of scale down to serve small to mid-sized businesses where we have true Americans running them. We have people, small families, family businesses. We've got rags to riches stories. We've got people that saw a need and they went out and solved it. And those are the people that we really should be supporting. Big business, they're going to be just fine on their own. So again, vendors, if you're listening to this, this is my challenge. Find a way to bring the solutions that you're providing to, large enterprise businesses down to the small guy. Give the small guy the advantage that he needs to compete against the bigs. So with that being said, again, I stand by it. I feel like there's a lot of market pressures against small to mid-sized business. There's a lot of things that are going against you. So keep up the good fight. Keep working hard. I can tell you we love small business. We love mid-sized business. We love rural businesses. We love blue-collar businesses. And the whole reason why is that the people that have started and are running those businesses, they're a lot like us. They love the country that they live in. They just want to work hard, make an honest living, and leave the world a better place than they found it. So that's this week's podcast. Again, thanks for tuning in. Really hope you appreciate this episode. It was kind of a little bit off kilter, and it probably sticks a stake in the ground a little bit of where I stand. But each and every day, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to fight for small business.